All right, here we are for the show that does not have a name yet. So this is Bishara with Philly Marketing Labs, and I'm joined today by Trisha Lamb and
Hello.
hi Trisha, and Julia Mueller. Hi, Julia.
Hi, thanks for inviting me to this great end of the day conversation.
I know it's 4:11 p.m. on the East Coast. We would all like to be drinking right now, but we're not.
I am.
We figured for the first couple episodes, we should not drink while we're doing this because we don't know what will come out of our mouths. And we could potentially have clients watching this. So we have to be very careful. Or
nice,
not.
refreshing LaCroix.
LaCroix, is that what you're having?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah. So this is our first dry run of this, and hopefully it's beneficial to our audience. And I know some of our team members are watching us, so I look forward to some feedback here offline. I'm not sure how we'd be getting that, but yeah. So it would be good to get some feedback from the team as we're going forward with it. And yeah, so the format is really flexible. The idea here is that we would get together with a couple of guests every week or every 2 weeks and talk about new things in the marketing ecosystem, troubles, news, wins for our industry and what's coming out of them in a very casual way. And yeah, hopefully you'll find this informative. So I know, Trisha, over the past couple weeks, we've been having this internal debate here at PML, designers versus web developers, right?
or the hybrid of.
Or the hybrid of, yeah. So what is it normally that you've experienced when designers work with web developers? What friction comes out of that?
Actually, it's no friction at all. I mean, it is, but it's
you're
not.
Lying.
No. It is, but it's not. Okay. So the first 5 years that I started, I had no idea about. I mean, I knew about the web, but I had no idea how to really speak to the developer. And then I've been developing and knowing about the web for the past 9 years, and I'll tell you, it makes your job a lot easier because you can throw things at them like, oh, throw a little bit more padding here, and can you put a new class for this? And they really love it when you're able to be able to throw those kinds of things at them. You can train if you have a design that's awesome and you want different types of functionality for your designs. You're able to speak the developer's language and then tell them exactly what you're envisioning, and you can have your things built a certain way. And if you just need to know those kinds of things. I think all designers should know a little bit about web development and be able to speak to the developers. Now, do developers and designers always get along? No, I get a lot of pushback. Like, you are pushing the boundaries way too far. You have to stay within this grid. I'm like, well, can we just flex that grid a little bit more?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing too is you can do so many things in Photoshop, right? There's very little you cannot do in Photoshop. And then the developer has to take your creation and actually code it. And I think that's, if you're not a designer, like you were saying, that understands the compliance that needs to exist between design and development, you could design things that are very difficult to code. And that's, I think, where that friction comes from.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me, if I may chime in from the PPC side of things. PPC really wins when that delicate balance between what the wish list of the designer and the developers, what a developer can pull off is achieved. Because when the user wins, that's when PPC wins. That's when we are showing Google that as the user clicks on our ad, they are having an awesome experience.
Right.
And therefore, our ad is possibly superior to another advertiser out there, and we get better ranking, we get better quality scores, etc.
Right, right. Yeah, speaking of experience, I mean, I talk to prospects and clients daily, and there's always this talk about, do we even need custom design anymore? Where there are template monster, and Trisha's gonna start shaking right now. There's tons, literally tons of templates out there that are pretty nice. I mean, you go on Template Monster and you have a WordPress site or a Magento site, you can download a template, couple clicks, and off you go. You want to get fancy, you get your developer to tweak it a little bit to make it your own, and you call it a design.
No,
You're saying no, Trisha. Tell me why.
Well, that could really tie your hands. Let's say you have a client that has like a big brand initiative and they really want to present themselves well on the web. Well, you're constricting yourself if you have a template, because you're not going to be able to have that user experience that they want. You're not going to be able to go outside the box. You have to stay within standards. And a lot of times what happens with the templates are they're not code compliant. So the developer has to try to do updates, which will make, you can throw your SEO out the window from that point, because you have to keep redoing it. It can make it harder.
So I'm hearing you say two things, Trisha. I'm hearing you say there's a problem from a messaging and branding perspective where you don't have control over design elements that better communicate your brand vision, tone, message. So a lot of people think, oh, slap some of my company colors on it, stick a logo on the top left, and there you go. It's a branded website. You're saying there's more to communicating your brand than color schemes and logos, right?
Something off the shelf is going to be a fraction of the price of actually having a custom website, but you're going to be prone to hacking. The time and money that you deal with the headache, you might as well invest your money into a custom site. That way you can do the updates that you need to do. You have more flexibility with the code. The admin is a lot harder to work with. That's just my experience. I much rather go with a custom design than a template.
But you're a designer, so you're a little biased.
I am.
We'll take it. So let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned user experience, and so what elements do you look for in user experience? So when you're designing user experience, what is the mindset you're in? Are there pitfalls? What can you say about that to give our audience?
Can my mom actually move around the site? Because she has actually she doesn't even know what a browser is, So I need to think about all of these things when I'm designing something. Who am I designing for? And, I got to consider my interface. I got to keep it simple. The complexity of your design may be awesome, but you need to just keep it clean. And keep your white space. Make a focus group. Ask your friends, your family to look at your designs. How many times do you have to click to get somewhere? You don't want them to have to keep on clicking. Minimize that.
So accessibility. You're talking about accessibility. Get people where they need to go with the fewest amount of clicks, right?
Yeah.
And then you also talked about the site being intuitive for your mom to be able to use, right?
Yeah, I hope she doesn't hear this.
By the way, Trisha's mom is up for hire. If you have a website and you need someone to test it from an intuitive perspective, do we know your mom's rates? Do you want to publish her phone number?
Run your site by Trisha's mom. That's the takeaway we take from today.
Your mom should have a Trisha's mom approved stamp that we can put on websites.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I don't know. And
can we have your mom on the show in the future?
I can actually I'm just kidding.
We're looking at websites we've designed and saying, you know what, you don't really need all these pages. Can you streamline this for me a little bit here and there?
Talk about confusing. Trying not to confuse like somebody or my mom. Be consistent. Don't have a navigation and then all of a sudden make it disappear. Why would you?
Right.
Why? Right. That's silly. I don't get it.
All right. So Julia, from your perspective, user interface and how it impacts paid search and traffic coming into the websites through a campaign. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, we say user experience a lot, and user experience is really the king in terms of PPC experience and in terms of PPC performance, paid search performance. As user comes to the website and enjoys being on it, quickly finds what they're looking for, and experiences all kinds of assistive elements on every one of those pages that they ever click through, that's when everybody wins. We win, the client wins, and the consumer gets what they're looking for, right? So user experience is everything. We, because Trisha's and everyone's expertise, we can always kind of anticipate what the user is looking for, knowing the vertical that the client is in, knowing the product or the service or both that they're offering. But and we also obviously can figure out, given the best practices, where to take a website. But paid search is essentially a litmus test on that. If your paid search experience is no good, you suffer on so many accounts, then you might as well not spend that money on paid search, but spend that money on fixing your website first, right, before you bring a user with a paid click to it.
Right. It's like the way I explain it to a lot of our traditional clients is you just built a house. You want to make sure there's comfortable furniture, the flow of the house is right, it's decorated, it's nice, your guests have something to do when they come to visit you before you send out the invites and have a housewarming party, right? So you want to get your house in shape before you start inviting people to it. And what we're saying here with paid search is before you start going out and setting up a paid search campaign and driving paid traffic to your site, you should make sure that your site is ready to convert those users once they come, right, through your ads. Right. So that's best practices, right, Julia? So a lot of people do that. There's a lot of companies that do it. Sometimes they talk about it, but it's not really done. But it's becoming more and more a commodity, right? Like, let's get our best practices in place. Let's make sure our SEO is in there, all that. What have you seen beyond that? Going a step further, what can a brand do beyond, there's a pre-click and post-click, right? So what is something that bridges those two, that pre-click entices people to click on your ads, and then once they come to your site, it adds to the stickiness of your website? So what have you been doing for some of our clients that has been helping improve that?
Yeah, that's a loaded question, right? Because that goes straight to our internal conversations and essentially really an internal discovery that we made for a few of our clients. What we've seen is we've built very strong campaigns that are beating benchmarks, that are beating baselines and vertical benchmarks, essentially. And then we've seen recently in a few special cases where all of a sudden we can beat that performance that's already super strong considerably, say twofold, and without disclosing.
Give it to us, Julia. How you do that? How do you do that?
Without disclosing the numbers.
Wow, she's like building up this excitement and anticipation.
And here it comes. So a web app or offering an assistive experience to a user beyond an informational page or an informational website.
Assistive experience. No one has a clue what that is. Tell us more.
Well, I'm using the word that was tossed around a lot during the last Google Marketing Next May announcement, and that's what's driving innovation by Google.
I'm up to April lingo. I didn't get to May yet.
All right, all right.
So is that a web application? Is this an interactive experience that we're talking about?
We're talking about a promise of an interactive experience, which then, first of all, brings our ad in focus and makes a user say, what? I want to know more. As they click through, they're met with an interactive experience guiding them through their purchasing decision, because that's essentially what oftentimes we found they want. They want to stay anonymous to a brand, and yet they want that brand to walk them through their purchasing decision or their purchasing journey closer to making a decision for one brand or another, for one product or another.
Sure.
And so when we offer those web apps through ads, we see doubling and tripling performance on all levels.
Yeah, it's really impressive. It's really impressive. And really what Julia is talking about is when someone, just basic search, when someone goes to the search engine, they have a question, they're looking to answer that question. And every ad and every search result is a promise of an answer, right? And they're very static. You want to know how many teaspoons are in a tablespoon. Everybody's giving you an answer to that, and the best answer that Google's algorithm agrees about is going to get pushed up on the search rankings. Now, if you're participating in paid ads and you're bidding on those keywords, your ad's going to show up. Now, what makes your ad stand out? Giving someone an interactive promise. What Julia is talking about is an app where in your ad copy you imply and you tell the user that clicking on this ad will take you to a tool in which you can type in the number of teaspoons and will tell you how many tablespoons that equals, as opposed to some flat page that you have to read and dig into to get your answer, is going to get better traction. And most recently with some of our clients, we've introduced symptom checkers, which it's an over-the-counter pharmaceutical drug where we say, answer these questions in this wizard, and we're going to tell you what's wrong with you and what is the best medicine for you. That's much more appealing to someone in a search ad rather than giving them a static answer that is always going to be the same. So giving them that custom experience that based on input that they choose and they enter, they're going to get a result and a determination and an assist in as far as what's going on with them, and that would help them out, right? Is that kind of what you're trying to drive towards, Julia?
That's what I was thinking about. And it doesn't have to apply to a pharmaceutical scenario. It doesn't have to be a self-diagnosis tool. And plus, all those self-diagnosis tools, they could be a little bit tricky in terms of giving your consumer a very rigid diagnosis without consulting with an MD. But it can be an interactive tool for essentially any brand, any product, any service out there.
Yeah. Bug ID.
Yeah, and I had actually my doctor once told me to stop going to WebMD myself, because I would go to my doctor and be like, I read on WebMD, I self-diagnosed and I have this. And she was like, you're not allowed to go on WebMD anymore. So it's a double-edged sword. For our OTC clients, it works well, but even for everyone else. So we have a refrigeration client that sells walk-in coolers and walk-in freezers. You can bid on walk-in cooler, and people click and see they search and they see your ad and it says, oh, walk-in coolers for sale, blah, blah, blah. That's one search result that's very staticky. But knowing the user persona and what the person is thinking when they're searching for a walk-in coolers, they don't know how big they need it to be. They don't know how high they need it to be. They don't know if their structure can support it. They don't know if they need a floor or not. But telling them the walk-in cooler builder, use this tool to identify exactly what you need and get an instant quote, that is far more enticing, and that's going to get a higher click-through rate than a static ad. So that's what we're talking about. Anyway, enough about marketing. Let's talk about facial hair.
Should we?
I have an agenda. Just follow. Just humor me.
Okay.
So I have two ladies from PML with me today. So how do you ladies think? What do you think of guys with facial hair?
Or women?
Well, I personally don't like putting facial hair, but what about you guys on men? What do you think of facial hair?
That's all right. It's all right. Not every guy can pull it off, but some of them can.
I'm getting self-conscious right now.
You're all right. You're okay.
I think there's a fine line. You know, you have to, if you're going to have it long or big, you have to maintain it. You have to be able to, I don't know if do you brush it? Do you wash it with
long
your
enough to brush it, but
shampoo?
yeah, you have to wash it.
And if it's short, I think you still need to like clean it up and stuff. If I've seen some, you know, some rat mustache that kind of hangs over the lip kind of deal where they don't like clip it, and when they talk it like gets stuck in there.
All right, Trisha, I wasn't going to take it that far. The reason I'm asking this is because in Ad Age, this past issue, they were talking about Procter and Gamble and how much trouble they're having with with Gillette, one of their brands, and how sales are declining and they're not really resonating with the audience. And the more I looked into it, it's really this trend of guys growing facial hair, and Gillette is in the business of selling razors to shave that hair. So there's less demand for their products, right? And I was thinking to myself, you know, if Gillette was to come to, or Procter and Gamble was to come to PML and say, you know, this is our problem, what should we do about it? You know, I'm thinking, what are the options here? What would you ladies?
Well, I know they sell beads. They sell beads to like put beads on. No, that's a joke. I'm just joking. No, I think, you know.
Well, if Procter and Gamble was to come to PML, Trisha will not be in that meeting.
No, like more cleaning material or cleaning to
like
clean
care,
hair. Like care, yeah.
Care. Right.
Yes.
So you're saying focus on a line that helps men take care of their beards. So really, it's like leaning into the trend as opposed to opposing it, right? Because what's the other solution is trying to come up with a campaign convincing guys to shave more, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, it may not work.
What is it, Julia?
It may not work.
It may not work. No, of course. I mean, you can't, you know, there's you know, fashion and personal image, you know, is a trend, right? It goes up and down. In 10 years.
As a brand, you embrace the trend, you don't oppose the trend, and you go with your consumer and their wishes.
All right.
Help them trim the beard if that's what, you know, they need the razors for, or there's other products that Gillette sells, right, for the beard, for the hair. Yeah,
there's like beard oil. We should have this conversation with some of our other team members that have really impressive beards. I think I have the shortest one out of the whole group. But there's a lot of products for like waxes and oils and like de-stressors and all sorts of crazy stuff. Yeah. So
I like the beads idea, though. I'm sorry.
See what you just started, Trisha.
I love it.
So Procter and Gamble
for your beard. Gillette is the maker of the bling bling. I like that.
So P&G, if you're watching, lean into it. You want more beard products? Don't tell us to shave our beards, because we will not. The ladies like it. So anyway, I think this was a great show. Again, I didn't actually say what you guys do at PML. So Trisha, what's your role at PML?
Designer, project management. I've done a little bit of development. You know, all hats.
A little bit of everything. All hats.
Yeah.
Multi-hatted.
Yes.
What about you, Julia?
Oh, I'm all just PPC. I'm sorry, PPC. I can't list 3 things. PPC is all I do all day, every day.
Come on, paid search is a universe, right? So within that universe, there's video, there's display, there's search, there's email. You do it all. Come on.
Oh my gosh, we should discuss video next time around. There's so many things we can. Oh, we do a lot of video.
Yes, we do a lot of videos, and there's awesome targeting options. So don't forget to subscribe to the show, like us, and if you have ideas for a next show or things you want us to talk about, please put them in the comments. And yeah. Well, thank you, ladies, so much.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. Take
Goodbye.
care. Bye.
See ya.